Something was wrong the second the boy told me my groceries weren't mine anymore. The way he said it carried confidence that didn't fit his age. I didn't know it yet, but refusing him was about to pull police lawyers and an entire neighborhood into the moment. I had stopped at the local market after work. It's the same place I'd shopped dozens of times. Nothing unusual. I parked, opened my trunk, and started loading bags while mentally checking off dinner plans. The parking lot buzzed with normal end-of-day noise. Carts rattling, kids complaining, engines starting and stopping. It was routine in the most forgettable way. Then someone stepped into my space. I turned and saw a teenage boy standing close enough that I could smell his cologne. 16, maybe 17. He stood with his shoulders squared, chin lifted, like he expected obedience. Without saying hello or even pretending to be polite, he pointed at my bags and told me to hand them over. I laughed, assuming he was joking. He wasn't. When I didn't move, he explained himself. He said his mother ran the neighborhood association, and that meant he didn't have to ask. He could take what he wanted. If I didn't cooperate, he promised things would get difficult for me. The confidence in his voice wasn't teenage bravado. It was learned. I told him no and went back to loading my trunk. I didn't insult him. I didn't threaten him. I treated the situation like it was beneath escalation. That's when his expression hardened. He pulled out his phone, took a step back, and muttered that I'd regret it. Then he walked away. I finished packing, but something about the interaction stayed with me. Not fear, more like recognition. I'd seen that posture before. It was what entitlement looks like when it's been rewarded too many times. I got into my car and started the engine. 10 minutes later, flashing lights filled my mirrors. A patrol car rolled in behind me, slow and deliberate. An officer stepped out, already wearing the look of someone who knew this call was messy. He asked me to step out of the vehicle and told me they'd received a report about a man threatening a minor in the parking lot. That's when I knew. Exactly how far this had gone, I listened quietly as he explained the complaint. According to the call, I had aggressively confronted a teenager who had only asked for help. The story was clean, confident, and completely fictional. The officer didn't sound convinced, but protocol is protocol, when he finished. I reached into my jacket and showed him my badge. The shift was immediate. His posture straightened. His tone changed. He addressed me formally, clearly aware of who I was. I asked him whether the report included what started the interaction. He glanced down at his notes, hesitated, frowned. I told him what actually has happened calmly, precisely. I pointed out the security cameras covering the lot and the number of people who had been nearby. Then I asked who made the call. He didn't need to answer. The name alone explained the confidence, the president of the community association. I'd heard about her long before this. Most people in the neighborhood had. She enforced rules selectively, threatened penalties casually, and treated minor authority like absolute power. People complied because fighting back always seemed to make things worse. But this wasn't an HOA violation. This was a false police report. I told the officer we weren't handling this casually. Someone had deliberately used emergency services to intimidate a stranger. That required documentation, he agreed. Before heading to the station, I suggested one stop, the association clubhouse. It was only a few minutes away, and her SUV was exactly where I expected it to be, parked crooked across two spaces like an afterthought. Inside, she was mid-speech, addressing to board members with the confidence of someone who believed outcomes were predetermined. When she saw me, her face lit up. She pointed and loudly told the officers to arrest me. She said I had terrified her son. Her voice carried certainty, not concern. She wasn't asking for help. She was issuing instructions. For a brief moment, the room leaned in her favor. Then the officer stepped forward and addressed me by title. The silence that followed was absolute. Her expression froze, then fractured. She repeated the title like it didn't belong to me. I confirmed it and explained exactly who I was. Then I described what her son had done, word for word. The demand, the threat, the phone call, the cameras, the witnesses. The board members shifted uneasily. One of them asked her if this was true. She tried to interrupt. I stopped her. I told her to stop talking. The officer issued a formal warning for filing a false report and informed her the case would be reviewed by the district attorney. I explained what would happen next for her son. Juvenile services, community consequences, accountability. The confidence drained out of her posture, but this still wasn't finished. I turned to the board member who had spoken up and told him I would be filing a formal complaint for abuse of authority. Using a leadership position to fabricate criminal accusations wasn't ambiguous. It demanded immediate review. He agreed without hesitation. The emergency meeting happened fast. The market manager brought the footage. It showed everything. The approach, the demand, the refusal, the phone call. 3 witnesses submitted statements that matched the video perfectly. She tried to argue she was protecting her child, but the evidence didn't bend. The board voted unanimously to remove her as president, effective immediately. They barred her from holding any position for 5 years. That should have ended it. It didn't. The district attorney moved forward with charges. Filing a false police report carried real penalties. She hired a lawyer. It changed nothing. The call logs, the footage, and her own statement sealed the case her son was ordered to complete. Community service and a juvenile intervention program. The judge made it clear his behavior hadn't appeared out of nowhere at her sentencing. The courtroom was full. Residents showed up quietly. People who had lived under her rules. People who had paid fines for trivial violations. When the judge reviewed her history, heads nodded in recognition. Authority misused had become authority forfeited. She argued status, image, community, involvement. The judge wasn't moved. The sentence included jail time, probation, fines, and hundreds of hours of service. Real consequences for real harm. When the bailiff stepped forward, she broke down. Shouting about who she was and what she deserved, the judge corrected her. With one sentence, former president. Months later, the neighborhood feels different. Not perfect. Not suddenly friendly, but lighter. Meetings are shorter. Complaints are fewer. Kids ride bikes without parents checking the clock. Normal returns slowly the way it does after pressure lifts. I still park in the same spot at that market. Every time I load groceries into my trunk, I glance at the space where he stood. The difference now is simple. No one there believes power works just because you claim it does, and that feeling stays.